So, Tom, in regards to powerful individuals taking advantage of the law, I've learned about a very interesting concept in Nassim Taleb's book, Antifragile. It's called Skin in the Game.
There's one rule I have, I call it skin in the game, is that nobody should put others at risk without having harm to himself. Okay? In other words, if you lose money to your clients, you should be exposed to the same risk. That's sort of, it both moral and risk management rule. Risk management, because in Hammurabi's code, it was simple. If the architect builds a house, and the house is fragile, but hidden fragilities in a basement, you get the idea, we're in the foundation, like in a banking system. They look very stable, but they cut corners that nobody will see, okay, to make the bonus. And if the house collapses, the architect is penalized. That was in Hammurabi's code. Actually, he's put to death if the house collapses and kills the owner of the house. So this system, okay, this is the best risk management rule because as Hammurabi discovered, but something they forget today in Washington, the architect or engineer knows a lot more about the risks. He doesn't know a lot about the risk, but he definitely knows a lot more than the inspector, you see. So if you make people eat their own cooking, you see, they're a lot better off, okay? And someone sent me, read my book and sent me something, about a story in Brazil where they discovered that they could lower the rate of helicopter crashes by forcing helicopter engineers randomly to take a ride, a half-an-hour ride, once a month in a helicopter, all right? Now, so, for example, something the Romans knew and Victorian knew that you make engineers sleep under the bridge, all right? Okay, so in trading, what do you do? So long as whoever is involved in a strategy has losses, small, okay, it doesn't matter, all right, has losses, if he can harm others, in other words, he has some incentive, but some disincentive, then we should be okay. It's when people don't have this incentive when they lose that the system blows up.
The author defines the absence of skin in the game as the greatest generator of crises such as the financial crisis that we know about in 2008. According to Taleb, the absence of skin in the game is about how some individuals gain lots of wealth and power from exposing others to the downside risks of losses or harm. In other words, these individuals keep the upside while transferring the downside to other people. So my understanding of the concept is that we can significantly minimize risk of failure as well as unethical behavior by making sure that every individual within a company or a decision-making panel has equal skin in the game, meaning that he or she will be exposed to the same degree of risk as others in situations of crisis. My question is that, is there any way to legally make sure that every decision maker and key stakeholder has equal skin in the game in an attempt to minimize risk within our company so that, for example, when a corporate executive or his team make a wrong decision, the company wouldn't make up for the financial loss by laying off people that had nothing to do with the unethical behavior?
Mm-hmm. My first answer is to address the skin in the game piece, and that's a huge issue. It reminded me of my favorite lawyer cartoons, which is there are lawyers representing his criminal defendant, and the judge says guilty, and the defendant turns to his lawyer and says, "What happens now?" And the lawyer says, "Well, I'm going back to my office. You're going to jail." In other words, the lawyer has no real skin in the game, and I think the lawyer might care much more if he lost. They both went to jail because they have equal skin in the game at that point. That being said, almost impossible to have equal skin in the game. There's varying responsibilities. So that's an ideal that I think we can never reach. The government, of course, that's what a lot of regulations are, is to keep risk appropriately focused. For example, I'm thinking about a mining company that if they mine and they pollute and into the stream, they make more money that way because they don't have to pay for all the cost of keeping a clean operation. But the people downstream are negatively affected. People upstream are making money, people downstream are harmed. So a lot of government regulation, the goal of that, either whether it be banking regulation or health regulations, things like that, are to keep the risk and the cost of that appropriate where it should be in the company and not affecting other stakeholders. The same thing internal to a company. It's a challenge, even if you made every single person, say there's a bad business decision, if you require each person to equally to be responsible for that risk, you have someone, and say the company goes out of business, a person who has high wealth, who was the leader of the company, is still going to be less negatively affected than the person who's living paycheck to paycheck. So there's no way to really fix that part of it. You can make sure they all have some skin in the game. For example, people who are taking huge risks at the top and having no negative consequence. For example, sheltering from criminal behavior behind a corporation. You can pass regulations that will break that, pierce the corporate veil, it's called. But it's incremental. There's no way to actually do it completely.
Well, thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yeah.